The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. I couldn't be happier than to be here with you this morning. We've got an incredible show planned for you, 2 hours back to back, talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. What does that mean? That means that nothing's off the table. We want to talk about what it's like to be a member of this community, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a practitioner, or an individual who's on the autism spectrum yourself. We want to help you to overcome obstacles that you're running into, and heaven knows there are plenty of those. We want you to be able to celebrate the things that are happening for you that are wonderful, and we know that there are lots of those. And honestly, we would just want to help you to get around the obstacles and get to that good stuff. We want to get to the progress, right? That's what we're all talking about. So that's why we're here. And most importantly, we want to do this with you. This whole show is meant to be interactive. Kelby's going to show you some of the different ways that you can choose to interact with the show, because we tried to make it as diverse as possible. While he's showing you some of the different ways you can be watching, some of the different ways you can be talking to us, I'll remind you that our homepage is autism-live.com. When you go there, many things to do, many things to click on and check out, and we hope that you will. Please sign up for our email list so that we can update you on important guests. I know that it's coming up soon that we're going to be able to get Temple Grandin on the show, and sometimes I have 5 minutes notice. And I'd like to be able to tell you, but I can't if you're not on the email list. Also, check out our blog. We love it when you do that as well. But I really want to talk to you about the fact that on that homepage, there's a computer screen. Click on the triangle to watch the live show or the most recently recorded live show. And then to the side of that are the series of boxes that are the live feature. Put your cursor in the one that says your comment. Start typing, hit enter. That's really it. There's no login, there's no password, there's no charge. Nobody's asking for your credit card. Nobody asks for your name. You get to be anonymous. Now, if you want us to get back to you about something, you do need to give us information. And I have a list. I'm trying to get back to the people who've asked me to get back to them. I'm working my way down. Don't give up. Don't give up on me. Be patient with me. But it helps to write in again, because sometimes things get lost in transmission. So keep writing in so that we can get back to you. All those things, but we hope that you will participate with us. I like to start by reminding you at the start of the show that we have lots of experts who are on the show, but even the experts that we have, they can't give individual specific advice, but they can help to point you in a direction. I think it's really worthwhile to ask them your question. But as I said, lots of experts on the show. I am not one of them. I am a mom. I'm an autism mom. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He is now 11.5. I have lots of hope to share and some experience. I am by no means a pioneer. There are people who have children who've been on the spectrum a lot longer than mine, and I defer greatly to them. But I want good things to happen for you. I want you to get as lucky as I did, because when I say I got lucky because I got good information at the right time. So know that that's where I'm coming from. I want to fill that karma bank that I had to take a withdrawal from several years ago to be able to get my child the help that he needed and that he still needs from time to time, to be quite honest. So I want to help you to get to the good stuff that we've been able to get to. It's been a privilege to be on this journey with my son. I didn't always feel that way about it, but I do now. And I'd like for you to get to the point where you can feel that as well. So use me as a telephone operator to help you to hook up to resources that you want, but understand that I'm not an expert. I fully acknowledge that and want to make sure that you guys know that as well. But I have lots of other experts for you. I've got some amazing experts for you, in fact, today. All right, we like to start the morning, every morning, with something that we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take on one word, one phrase, one acronym. We try to make sense of it. Because if we begin to understand these terms, then it's another tool in our tool belt that we can use to get to that progress. Okay, I love today's jargon term. Today's jargon term is errorless learning. What you talking about? What on earth could this be? But this, my friends, is the beginning of all things good right here. So let's take a look at our actual definition. Errorless learning is an instructional design introduced by psychologist B.F. Skinner in the 1930s as part of his studies on what would make the most effective learning environment. Skinner said errors are not necessary for learning to occur. All right, I'm a former teacher, so, this is a very interesting concept, right? But when we put it in motion, we see that not only is it interesting, it's miraculous. Okay, so what's our working definition? Errorless learning is teaching procedures that are specifically designed so that the learner does not have to and does not make mistakes as they learn new information. Okay, so let's take in point of fact our kids who are on the autism spectrum, and I'll reference my son who, for a period of time, my son was learning and gaining new skills, and that was all wonderful until it stopped. And then my son became like a dry erase board. We would try to teach him something, and the next day it would go away. And then if we wanted to learn something new that was totally new that had never been introduced before, it was just an exercise in frustration is what it was. And then we learned about errorless learning, which is one of the first tools that you can use when working on something in an applied behavior analysis fashion. So if I want to teach a child, for instance, that this is a pen, and I'm going to teach that this is a pen in many different ways. I'm going to teach it receptively so that when I say to the person, hand me the pen, that they know that this is what I'm talking about. But I'm going to teach it expressively so that when I say, what is it? They say, it's a pen. Whether they're saying it vocally or they're saying it with sign or with a picture exchange communication, right? And then later on, I'm going to teach them what the functions of a pen are, what the features of a pen are, so that they fully understand what a pen is, right? But I got to start somewhere. You got to start to get overwhelmed going, oh my gosh, I didn't realize there were so many different aspects to a pen. I want to go home, I want to go to bed, right? It seems very tiring. So how do I begin to teach this? Well, we might start with the receptive of, saying to them, touch the pen, right? So that we know that when we say pen that they know what it is. But I'm not going to lay I'm not going to lay a glue stick down and go touch the pen to start. I'm going to do that later on. In the beginning, I'm going to start with errorless learning. So I take the pen and I put it down on the table and I say to my child on the autism spectrum, touch the pen. There's only one thing to touch. But in the beginning, you might say to yourself, well, they don't even know what touch means, so we got to start from scratch. So I might say, touch the pen, and then I might take and do a full prompt. I take the child's hand, and I put it on the pen, and then I go crazy the first time, and I go, yay, good, that's touching the pen, and I might tickle the child, yay. Was there any possibility that the child could have gotten it wrong? No. That's errorless learning. And what we see is that it lays the groundwork, and the child doesn't have any idea what's going on in the beginning. To them, it's wop, 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 right? They're not understanding what the words are that I'm saying. But what they do understand is that when they do this, after I say womp, wop, 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 that yay! And they get something that's meaningful to them, whether that's a tickle or a hug, or for a child, it might be something that's edible, right? And then from there, I can continue doing this, and I'm going to fade back my prompt first so that eventually I say, touch the pen, and the child does it all on their own. And yay, everything is wonderful. Okay, and then we'll talk later on in the week about what the next phase is. But this errorless learning, now think about how simple it is with a pen. What are you trying to learn in your life, or what are you trying to teach somebody in your life? Maybe it's much more complicated than that. Maybe you're trying to teach somebody somebody how to drive, and you think, well, how can I use errorless learning when driving? People do it all the time. They do it when they teach at a simulator where there's no possibility that they can get it wrong and crash the car. And they take it apart into increments, so they just teach one part of it at a time so that you can't get it wrong. You can do this with knitting. You can do this with cliff diving. You can, right? It's taking and removing any possibility that you could mess it up and working on all the skills and then slowly putting them together so that there is success to be had. At some point, you know, there's an option to make a mistake, but not in the beginning. It's just one little step in the beginning, and that, my friends, is errorless learning. It's a great teaching technique for early on teaching a skill. Later on in the week, we'll talk about how we move on from there. All right, we always have a question of the day for you, and Kelby said to me right before we came on, he said, don't be mad at me, I edited it down a little bit. Because what I had for the question was, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. We've all heard that before, right? And then our question was, what do you need to start doing differently to get a better result? So it's perfectly fine, Kelby. But honestly, if you think about in your life right now, is there something that you've been doing over and over and over again because you got into a habit, a rut, and that maybe you need to start looking at it in a different way? I always love the example. Somebody told me this once at a conference. They said, think about the fly that always, you know, at some point in the spring or the summer, we go and we open up a window in our house and we see on the ledge that there is a dead fly. Maybe there's more than one dead fly. And the reason why the fly is there and is dead is because the last time that the window was open, they were in the room and they saw the outside and they went to fly and they hit the screen. And the fly continues to fly against the screen, trying to find where is the hole in the screen to get through. And eventually they die because they have a very short lifespan, and they die right at the screen. When at any moment that fly could have turned around and flown in a whole other space. And I try to remind myself of that and say to myself, you know, do I have screen marks on my forehead sometimes because I will continue to beat my head against a screen? But we all have the option of at any point stopping and saying, you know what, maybe this isn't the way this is going to work. Maybe I need to go about this in a different way. And I challenge you to write to me and say that there's any situation where there's no other choice to be made. Because we always have choices, even if it's just a choice of how we think about it, right? Maybe physically there's no other choice, but maybe there's a different way of looking at it and a different way of thinking about it. And this is something that's really crucial, I think, if you're going to be a member of the autism community. And honestly, I think it's crucial no matter which side of the equation you're, you know, if you're a teacher or a parent or a practitioner and you're trying to teach someone something, you've got to have this kind of resilience to say there's got to be more than one way to teach this. And maybe the way that I've always taught it before to everybody else, or to that one other person that I taught it to that it made sense, maybe I need to think of this in a different way. Maybe for this individual and the way they learn, maybe they're going to have to hear it and learn it the complete opposite of the way I've been used to do it. And honestly, it is so liberating when you get your head into that sort of space. But I think the same thing is true for our individuals who are on the autism spectrum, that we need to teach them a certain amount of flexibility with their thinking, because a lot of times they'll think of something in terms of black and white. Well, we do it this way because we've always done it this way. And when we can teach them that that when you get into a situation and there's a problem, and this is executive function skills 101, right? When there's a problem and you're up against something, that we don't give up and we don't just keep doing it. We go over our options about how could we go about this differently. Can we pull back and look at this problem and see if there's another way to do it? When we do this, we model it for our individuals who are on the spectrum. And when we teach these skills to individuals on the spectrum, we see them flourish, just flourish. So we're asking you today, what do you need to start doing differently to get a better result? Write it and tell us, and we'll take a look a little bit later on. All right, we always have a topic of the week. Can you guess what our topic this week is? It's something very scary, trying something different, being willing to try something different. That doesn't mean changing everything, and we're going to talk about that throughout the week, but trying something different, doing something from a different angle, looking at it from a different angle. Sometimes this is where the genius comes in and something really miraculous happens. So throughout the week, we're going to talk about that. We've got some amazing, amazing guests that are going to be with us here today. Talk about thinking about it from a different perspective. Kelly Hunter is going to be with us. She's going to be joining us via Skype from England and talking with us about the Hunter Heartbeat Method. This is very different, but we're talking about putting Shakespeare and autism together in a very specific way and seeing kids flourish. This is an amazing thing. I read about this and I got so excited as a performer. And I remember being a young, probably junior high, when I decided that I wanted to be an actress. And all my friends who were actors, they were very into Shakespeare, and I didn't get it. I was like, Shakespeare? I don't get it. Like, people get so excited. I don't get it. And it seemed like to me that there was some sort of mysterious thing about it, some mysterious code or something. And it was like people who got it loved Shakespeare. And those of us who didn't, it was like, I don't get it. I don't understand what they're talking about. Went to college, felt largely the same, did some Shakespeare, and enjoyed it more because I understood it more. It wasn't until I went to graduate school and had, honestly, two different teachers. Shout out to Barda Heiner and to Barry Kraft, who both of them are two of the best Shakespearean actors that I've ever been exposed to. Barry Kraft is at Ashland Shakespeare Festival, and one of their premier performers. And also, I must be honest, Patrick Stewart. From X-Men and Star Trek Next Generation came and taught Shakespeare to us as well. And I heard for the first time Shakespeare done really well and understood the code. And the code is iambic pentameter, which is a heartbeat. It mimics a heartbeat. And so it's fascinating to me that Kelly Hunter has taken this, which is no great surprise if you go and study Shakespeare anywhere. It's not like it's hidden or a hidden code, but talking about iambic pentameter and being a heartbeat. But she has taken that and brought it to the autism classroom with great, great results. So we're going to be talking with her. I can't wait to hear about this. This is very exciting to me. Got some autism news for you that I think that you'll find really fun. And in our second hour today, we're welcoming back Devin Rios Barrieno. She is an attorney, a special education attorney that we had on a couple of weeks ago, and she's back to join us for a little class called IEP 101. I know you guys are going to really it's another way of looking at it, another way about approaching IEPs and being strong in what the rules and the regulations are, using them to your advantage. So really looking forward to that. All of that and ever so much more coming up after these messages. Stick with us.
Talk of Facts. Welcome back. I'm Lisa Ackerman. I'm here to help answer some of the most common questions that come up on your autism journey. And this one's my favorite one. I'm out of money. What do I do? Well, I've yet to meet any family with autism that maybe once had money. By the time autism has rolled through their lives, their money is pretty much gone to the wind. So what I always like to tell families is we've spent a great deal of time on a budget series. Real life, practical guidelines for every situation you'll come across in autism. The series includes everything that you need to know about therapy and who pays for what, autism insurance and healthcare reimbursement tips and tricks. There's an entire white paper on that. Let's not forget medical intervention unique to autism and the common things that you need to do and how you can get those common comorbid issues covered through your healthcare insurance plan. Yes, that's possible. Some of the other great on a budget series also includes, how to homeschool your child, what to do if schooling is not currently working out within the school right down the street. And the last one that's the most important to me is how do you feed these kids all of their allergy-friendly foods without going bankrupt? Well, that's easy. The last and most important paper Taka wrote was how to feed a family of 4 on the autism, gluten-free, casein-free, soy-free diet for $320 per month. We know how to do it. We've assisted families living on food stamps, and so we know the resources. And then we also provide some great tips on what's available through public assistance, and also what are the current grants available through ACT Today or other foundations out there serving the autism community. We keep a current list. Currently, there's over 36 national organizations providing financial aid for families living with autism. So, if you're out of money, don't let that be the barrier for success. TACA can help you with our entire On a Budget series at the TACA website, tacanow.org, and we'll see you back at the next TACA Fact.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're taking just a second here to talk about some in the news. All right, so last night a story broke, and it was all over the news, about whole genome sequencing of quartet families with autism spectrum disorder. This is an article, or excuse me, it's a study with findings published in the journal Nature Medicine. All right, there's an endless conversation that we tend to have about, is autism something that is genetic, or is it something that's caused by environmental causes? And the informed thinking at this point says that it's a combination of both. And, you know, it's one of those things that I'm a little stunned and a little gobsmacked because we continue to debate it. And a study was done a couple of years ago. We covered it here on the show. That it was Claire Lajonchet who pioneered this study. It was called the Twin Study, and they studied several groups of twins that were fraternal and twins that weren't fraternal, twins that both of them were on the spectrum, twins that one was on the spectrum. And there's no way that you can look at the study, and it was the largest study of its kind, not just studying, 45 sets of twins. There were thousands of twins that it studied, and it showed that clearly there is clearly a genetic component, and clearly it is not entirely genetics, or we would have seen a vastly different result from the study. And yet we continue to look at where does the line between genetics and environmental cross. And people have different dogs in this fight, let's put it that way, because there are a lot of people who want it to be just genetic for various and sundry reasons, because they don't want it to be environmental. And there are a lot of people who, quite the opposite is true, that they want it to be environmental because they don't want it to be caused by genetics. And honestly, I think anybody who looks at the studies can say clearly we can't rule either one of these things out. But we have a new study that's showing that in particular that we cannot rule out genetic. The thing that's fascinating to me about this is that they make a lot of people are reporting it today and saying, well, then clearly that's what it is, it's genetics. Let me give you the information and see what you think. So, as I said, this was a whole genome sequencing. They took families that had, they took the parents, and that each one of these families had 2 siblings that were each affected by autism spectrum disorder. And they studied the DNA sequencing in everyone, in all 4 members of this equation, mom, dad, and both siblings. And they did this with 85 families. So that was a total of 170 individuals with ASD. And they compared all of the different DNA and saw that it was very common, in fact, that in 69.4% of the children who were affected by ASD, that they had different mutations in their genes that were causing the ASD. And what they arrived from this was that clearly there is a genetic component of autism. And what's being reported in the news, the quote from one of the people in the study says, it's akin to having lightning strike twice. And they're saying it's just bad luck, bad genetic luck. To me, it doesn't seem that way. If you've got all these people and all these genes, and we've got 2 different sets of mutations, for me, that brings up even a stronger question about what happened in the environment to cause these genes to mutate. Am I the only one? one of the questions that was asked, maybe these families are just mutation prone. The study thought of this and they checked, but the kids do not have any more than the average number of new genetic mutations. There's just happened to be in an area affecting the brain. It's like it's just coincidence. I don't know. I don't think, and then the study, the person who did the study said, we just think that there are a lot of different targets. Scherer says it's a roll of the genetic dice. I don't know. That just strikes me as a little, I don't believe in coincidences. I don't know. Write in and tell us what you think. Okay, I always like to give you something that's a palate cleanse. We love in our family to go to museums. We think it's one of the best things that we can do with our son, and we've done that since he was very young. We happen to live here in Los Angeles, so we have a vast array of museums, and we have museums that open their doors on a regular basis for free. So even if you are financially challenged, which, let's face it, almost all of us who have children on the autism spectrum are, then you can still do this, and it can be a great thing to do in the day. It's educational. There's a component for social interaction, and it helps to excite their brains. But what about when there are things that are happening in the environment that are too much of a sensory load for our kids who are on the autism spectrum? And we certainly have experienced this with my son, places that we've gone where we couldn't stay too long in one room because the lights were too bright, or there was too much fluorescent, or there was something, too much noise, too many people in the crowd, so on and so forth. Well, more and more museums are starting to take this into consideration and opening their doors for specific times where they will dim the lights and have fewer people there. One museum, in fact, the Pacific Science Center in Seattle, Washington, has said that for one Saturday a month, they will open their doors for 2 hours before they normally open them so that there are fewer people there in the crowd. They dim the lights, they dial down some of the sound things that they have going on, and they encourage their members and guests who are on the autism spectrum to come and participate with them in that way. There are more museums that are doing this. In fact, there are some in Washington, D.C. The Smithsonian has a program that is like this. The Dallas Museum of Art, and even NASCAR holds events where autistic children can go to the track to watch a live race from a quiet room. So we think that this is really remarkable. We want to encourage people to go to the Pacific Science Center in Seattle, Washington. Check on their website to see which Saturday it is. It's early morning, but sometimes that's better for our kids. I would encourage you, if you need to, feel free, if you've got autism therapists that are with you on a regular basis. We took our therapists with us, and it paid off in spades. They helped us to be able to deal with the things that come up at museums. They helped my son to be able to deal with the things that come up at museums. And now we go to museums and we wouldn't think about taking a therapist, but we have a lovely time. It's one of the things that we choose to do on a day when we've got nothing else going on. So it's amazing what our kids can learn at museums. Don't avoid them. Ask if your museum has a program like this and encourage them to start one. And we congratulate the Pacific Science Center in Seattle, Washington. All right, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, hopefully we're going to be joined by our special guest, Kelly Hunter, talking about the Hunter Heartbeat Method. Stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back to Smarty. This month we're going to be creating recycled crayons to help us make some scratch art. While we work on this awesome activity, you'll notice that these icons will pop up. These icons tell you important information about the skills we're using and where to find them on the Skills program. Skills is an ABA-based online tool that helps parents create curriculum for the children that are on the autism spectrum. And if you're already a Skills user, you're going to get the most out of this fun activity. Well, let's get started. Materials you'll be needing are old crayons, muffin tins, white cardstock, painter's tape, paintbrush, black tempera paint, laundry detergent, shallow bowls, and some barbecue skewers. Inevitably, anytime my niece comes over and we draw, we end up with a bunch of broken crayons. No problem. I'm going to take these broken crayons today and we're going to peel off the paper. Once they're peeled, you're going to place them in a muffin tin or some small container, and you're going to have the oven preheat to 150. You're going to put the crayons in there, and they're going to melt for about 15 to 20 minutes. As you wait for your recycled crayon to cool, now it's time to prep your cardstock. You're gonna take your painter's tape and you're gonna line the 4 sides with it. Now that my recycled crayon has cooled, I'm gonna have my child fill in the cardstock, leaving no corner left unfilled with the crayon. I'm gonna take my black tempera paint and put it in a small bowl with a little bit of laundry detergent. I'm gonna mix that together. Then you're gonna have your child paint over their crayon drawing. You wanna make sure it's completely covered in paint. Let it dry and do a few more coats if necessary, if you can still see the crayon underneath. I've been really patient and now the paint is finally dry. I'm gonna take my bamboo skewer and draw a picture on here. You're gonna use your bamboo skewer to scratch away the black paint to reveal the colorful crayons that we used underneath. This is a time for your child to get as imaginative as they'd like. Here's my completed picture. I hope you had fun creating one on your own with your kids. Well, until next time guys, craft on. Bye. To find more about skills and to access all of the lessons you saw in today's Smarty, visit skillsforautism.com and click on the parent icon. Skills, the online autism solution.
Welcome back. I just want to update you. We are trying to get Kelly Hunter via Skype, but it is across the pond, as they say, and Skype is having its difficulties today. And I don't know whether that's because of the storm back east that a lot of you are going through right now. But Kelly is trying diligently. We're trying diligently on our end. I'm sure that Skype is trying diligently, but thus far, as Kelby said, we don't have a pulse yet. So we'll keep you posted. We'll hopefully be able to get Kelly in a little while, and we appreciate her trying because this is good information. If we have to, we'll reschedule. But in the meantime, I have a list here. We always want to talk about funding, right? And funding is so important. And I just had mentioned that so many of you, I don't know a single person in the autism spectrum that isn't struggling financially in some respect, something that they'd like to be able to afford that they currently have not been able to. So I want to go down a list of different places where you can get grants. We talk all the time about the one that's on the top of the list, Act Today. Act Today has a couple of different ways in which you can get funding and programs. They have different programs. So, for instance, if you're a military family, you can apply to Act Today through their Autism Treatment for Military Family funds and access funds through that. But if they also have an iPad and technology program. They have programs that are for underserved populations. They have safety protocol program, lots of different things. Take a look at their website, which is act-today.org. Now, they open up those grants at different times through the year. There's 4 different times during the year where they'll open up for a month and they'll take applications. And if you don't get a grant in the first phase, your grant application be held over to the next one without having to reapply. But they also have a way in which you can apply for a grant anytime during the year, and that's their SOS program. That's when the issue that you're having is literally life-threatening. And if you have a situation like that that's going on, you don't have to wait for a grant phase. You can apply at any time. So again, you can go to act-today.org, check out when those grant phases are. Okay, but I'm going to go down a list for some other programs that you may not know about as well. Autism Cares is an organization that supports individuals with autism and their families during natural disasters and other catastrophic life events. So that if you're having an issue around if a family member is ill and or has passed away, or you've been through something like Katrina, I know that there are sometimes families that write into us that have had a fire or something of that nature. Autism Cares, which you can find them at autismcares.org. They're the perfect organization for that. The Autism Consortium, they can be found at autismconsortium.org. They help with unexpected and immense out-of-pocket costs for treatment and services. They say through the generosity of foundations and sometimes public funding, applicable grants might help parents offset these costs. The Autism Consortium has compiled a list of grant opportunities so that you can go to them and help to be able to get support that they'll help you to potentially find a source. Autism Escapes, it's an angel network for families of children with autism. Its primary purpose is to arrange air travel on private jets for families in need of medical care for their children. So that's autismescapes.org. The Disabled Children's Relief Fund, which is www.DCRF. They're a nonprofit organization that provides disabled children with assistance to obtain wheelchairs, orthopedic braces, walkers, lifts, hearing aids, glasses, medical equipment, physical therapy, and surgery. So again, that's the Disabled Children's Relief Fund. That's DCRF.com. How about the Edwin Phillips Foundation? They provide grants directly to families who have children with disabilities, including physical and cognitive challenges. Funds can be used for more expensive projects or services such as assistive technology or home modifications. That's www.edwinphillipsfoundation.org. The next one, First Hand Foundation, is a nonprofit organization that helps children with health-related needs when insurance and other financial resources have been exhausted. You can find them if you go to applications.cerner, that's CERNER.com, and then /firsthand. Again, that's applications.cerner, CERNER.com, firsthand. Friends of Disabled Adults and Children Too, you can find them at FODAC.org. It's a statewide and national provider of home health care equipment. So again, FODAC.org. Fund It Forward, which is just like it sounds, but Fund It FWD.org. It's a volunteer-run nonprofit organization which believes that parents of special needs children are strong, willing, and able to endure daily struggles. Their mission is to ease the burdens of families with special needs by kids by raising money for adaptive equipment not covered by health insurance. Okay, moving on. Funding for iPads. You can go to a couple of different places for that. SNAPPS for the number kids.com. They have a list of places where you can get together, where you can find places that will fund iPads, because there are many that do that. Generation Rescue, which is generationrescue.org, provides grants for families who are just starting out with biomedical. Each grant recipient receives 2 doctor visits with a specially trained physician who treats autism. There are vitamins, minerals, and supplements for 90 days, and a Generation Rescue mentor. And they will also help you with dietary intervention. But I know that you need to be somebody who's just starting out, not have done this kind of intervention before. Helping Hand program, which is part of the National Autism Association, provides families with financial assistance in getting necessary biomedical treatments, supplements, and therapies for their children with autism. That's nationalautismassociation.org. Lend for Health. We've talked about them here before on the show. A wonderful organization that provides microloans that do have to be paid back, but sometimes it's the thing that you need to do while you're getting your other source when you need money very quickly. They facilitate loans for biomedical treatment as well as autism spectrum disorder services. That's lend4health.com. You can go to them. Loud Mommy. They are an organization that provides iPads. Loudmommy.com. Modest Needs, which is modestneeds.org. Nonprofit with a threefold mission to responsibly provide short-term financial assistance to individuals in a temporary crisis, to lessen the burden of state and federal agencies charged with the care of the truly indigent by doing everything in their power to stop these at-risk households from slipping into the cycle of poverty, and to promote compassion and generosity on the part of individual persons living in the United States and Canada. So that's Modest Needs. My Goal Inc., You can find them at mygoalautism.org. They have a grant program that will allow families to take advantage of socialization and educational opportunities designed for individuals with special needs. The Olive U Foundation, Olive, O-L-I-V-E, and you can find them at theoliveufoundation.org. They provide grants to families who have speech and language disorders. Patient Advocate Foundation, and they are patientadvocate.org. And they help you to be hooked up to resources in your family. Small Steps in Speech, smallstepsinspeech.org is their website. Assist children with speech and language disorders by funding supplemental therapies and treatments for individuals, as well as grants to charitable organizations who serve children with communication needs. Of course, you always have the option of applying for Social Security, SSI. You can go to www.disability-claims.net to find out more about that. TACA has a wonderful family scholarship program, and this is designed specifically for families who are pursuing treatment for their children with autism but are struggling to find the funding. They can be found at TACA Now, so TACA now.org. TRICARE has an enhanced access to autism service demonstration. You can find that at tricare.mil. And then the other one that I talk about all the time here on the show that I don't think enough people utilize is the United Healthcare Children's Foundation. You can find that at www.uhccf.org, and they will give a one-time grant of $5,000. You do not have to be a United Healthcare recipient at all. It has to be for something that is medical in nature and has been prescribed. It must be FDA approved. So, but a $5,000 one-time grant. There are a whole list of places where you have the potential to get funding. And by the way, for the United Healthcare Children's Fund, it's uhccf.org. Find the money. Find the money and tell us where you found it. All right, we're going to take a break and be back after these messages.
Well, today is the One Hope Act Today for military families 10K and 5K run, walk, and family fun festival.
Thanks for coming out to support this awesome cause.
What I'm trying to accomplish here is to get more people involved, more people to be aware of autism as a disorder so that they can be more involved in this effort to help people find resources.
Pull that belly button in, get a nice balance there.
This is an incredible event. I'm very passionate about it. Autism is affecting so many kids across the United States, and I also support our military.
1, 2, 3, 4.
My name's Gunnery Sergeant Sean Tajma. Working with the School of Infantry West. I'm currently running with 1st Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. I personally involved with this because my son Jacob has autism. I just want to say thanks to Act Today for what they're doing to help my family and other military families with autism.
Here we go, let's hear it for the 2nd Light Infantry.
Some of the main sponsors here. Of course, One Hope Wine is the title sponsor.
What we do is we donate 50% of our profits back to different partner charities, one of them being Act Today that does a fantastic job.
Act Today is very dear to my heart because when my husband was deployed, they were there when we didn't know how we were going to make things happen. They give so much to the military family, and it comes at a time when you just don't know how you're going to make ends meet. So to me, it's more than just an event, and it's more than just a grant. It's a gift.
All right, you guys, have we gone over the road?
Thank you all, to the teams, to the individuals that donated to this fantastic cause out here again this year. The event got larger.
People ask me why military families with autism, why does Act Today have that as a special program? I'll tell you why. Because our military families should not have to fight two battles. One, to protect our country, and another, to get services for their children. They move so often. Every time they move, they have to start again. We owe it to them. And it just was a tremendous success. So I just want to say thanks to everybody for taking part in it.
Check this out, Marine. See all these wonderful people? All you gotta do next year, Marine, Devil Dog, 2 for 100, sign up with me, staff or an email, and I'm gonna take you out here, do a little 5K, little PT early in the morning. After that, you can have the time of your life. After that, I might even be able to get you a letter of appreciation, maybe a little libo time. How's that sound?
Sign up for next year because this is an event that comes on and on. It's a win-win situation here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Well, first of all, the bad news. Kelly Hunter's not going to be able to join us today. We will reschedule with her. It is all Skype's fault and no one else's. We love Skype, but today we don't. But we will reschedule with her because I can't wait to hear more about the Hunter Heartbeat Method, and I know that all of you would be interested. We're all looking for summer camps right now, right? I am. I'm looking for summer camps, and we're going to be doing some shows on that coming up. But in any case, Kelly is very sorry that she can't be with us, and she would like to be here. She's there. She's ready to talk to us, but Skype will not cooperate. I suspect that it is the storm. In any case, we will have her we'll reschedule with her, and we will have her on at another time. I want to take right now, somebody wrote in a question and said, "Hi, Shannon, thanks for your show. You discussed vision therapy and a specific machine that your son used. What was the name of that machine, and thank you." And I don't know whether somebody else had written in about it too, or whether it's the same person that wrote in. And I, of course, don't know what the name of it is, and I've been Googling it and nothing's coming up. But I know where it is. And so what I will do is I will take a look at it and see what it is called. I will tell you that it was not cheap. And I don't honestly know if they're making them anymore, but it's probably something that you can buy on eBay, and I will find out what the name of it is and get back to you. Okay, now we have another question that came in that I am going to tell you that I'm going to ask Dr. If we have time tomorrow, I'm going to ask Dr. Grampachet this question from our haircut mom. My 14-year-old 8th grader has been saying school is boring almost every day. He only likes math and robotics. He says he says that he kind of understands even when he kind of understands what the teacher is saying, he isn't interested. He has poor comprehension. We have tried to get him into family discussions, but he can't tune in unless it's his preferred topic. The point system, at a minimum, gets him to school on time and to study. 5 points for each 15 minutes. He's going through the motions. Any way we can make this internal. Also, if I turn into Tiger Mom, and this is why I wanted to talk about this, piano practice suddenly becomes a snap. But I don't want to be Tiger Mom, and I've trained him to be afraid of stern people, and thank you. So this is why I want to talk about this, because I think this is one of those things that we talk about our theme this week about doing something different. And I'm going to tell on myself here because I can turn into Tiger Mom too. And I am one of those people that I don't want to yell. I call myself somebody who's generally, I want to be a pacifist. I think that it's best to be a pacifist. I don't want to be in a fight about everything. But I'm an autism mom. So I'm in a fight about everything all too often. And there are times when I'll be asking my son to do something, and I'll be breathing, and I'll be using all the things that I learn here on the show, and I'll think, just take a breath, and it's going to be okay, and use, model for him the voice that you want him to be talking to you in, and not getting upset and flying off the handle and whatever. And then I get to the point, and I'm like, just do it! And then suddenly, he hops to, and he's like, oh, okay. And then he does it, and it becomes a snap. And I sit there and go, this is not who I want to be. I don't want to be this mom. I don't want to parent this way. Because I do know, and I believe that long term, that doesn't do him any good. That gets him to do that task, but he's not going to do it on his own when I'm not there to stand over him, which is not really the thing that I want. So I'm constantly having the battle about how do we internalize these things. So I will tell you, what I know and what I've learned from here is that anything that we want to target, that we want to see improvement on, that we have to do, there's like a set sort of formula, right? That we want to keep in mind, and it's that we have to give them more opportunity, and that we have to make sure that the reward is meaningful to them. And that's easy to say. It's another thing entirely to make it into a reality. You kind of give it away here in your question that you say, look, the point system works in what it does, that it gets him to study 5 points for each 15 minutes. So my question to you is, what is the reward that he's getting for those 5 points? Because you've already got that system in place. He's willing to work that. He might be doing it grudgingly, but he's willing to do that. If you know that kind of works, what is it that he's getting for those 5 points for studying? And is there something that you can expound on that? Can you sweeten that in some way? But then you really have to pick your battles. And let's remember that our kids aren't going to like everything. And we could spend all of our time getting them to like everything. But I think that if you were to go and sit down and talk with 8 moms of 8 neurotypical kids who are in junior high and high school, and you were to float this out and not say to them that your child is on the autism spectrum and say, he just seems a little disconnected. He's not interested in anything except what he's interested in, and I can't even get him to be a part of the family conversation. Every one of those moms would sit at the table and go, ooh, I'm having the exact same problem. Now, does that make it different for you because your child is on the autism spectrum? Sure it does, because what you do, both good and bad, there are differences, right? But just, I offer that up to you to know that it's part and parcel of being at a certain age, because there's a lot of stuff at high school that I wouldn't want to have to do, right? And there's a lot of stuff at junior high school that I wouldn't be in. And even now, there are things about, I just apologized to Kelby yesterday and said, I have not been curious enough about how our cameras work, because I really don't care. I care that they work, but I really don't want to know everything in the user's manual. And I think that that's human nature. And there is a certain amount of junior high and high school that just has to be gotten through. But having said that, what do you most want to target? What do you most want him to be interested in? What do you want him to care about? And start with that. And sweeten the pot with what you already know works a little bit. If a point system works, how could you up the ante so that you could make it more possible? One of the things, depending on how verbal and how much your child understands, one of the things that I've come to do with Jem is that when I'm having a day when I know that Tiger Mom could come out, I will start out and I will be incredibly patient. Sometimes he's just in a mood, right? And he knows that I'm in a mood and he's going to push buttons. And I now have taken to saying to him, hey, you're in control right now. Here's the whole thing. If you do this, this is the reward you're going to get. If you don't do this, at some point, you know that mom is probably going to raise her voice. Mom doesn't want to do that. You don't want mom to do that. You're going to decide how this works. And I kind of give him a reverse countdown to, we're almost there. Probably the next time I have to talk to you about this, I'm probably going to raise my voice, because I want to have that antecedent modification there for myself so that maybe I don't have to engage in that behavior that I don't want to do. So thinking about it in a different way, being willing to do something different. Could I have done that with my son 3 years ago? No. But then what I would do is tag team with Dad, and we would just tighten the bolts down and say, nothing else is happening until you do this. And we would walk away when a tantrum was happening about it. And we even had a timer that said, the thing that he wanted to do the most. And that changed over the years. Eventually it became video games, but we would turn on the timer and say, you know, if you get this task that I know you don't want to do and that you want to argue with me, I wouldn't say all that, but like, if you're going to, you know, here's the timer. I want you to do the piano lesson and do it really well, and you have 20 minutes in which to do it. If you do it within the 20 minutes, then you're going to get this much time to do the thing that you want to do. But once the 20-minute goes, then I'm going to reset the timer, and every 5 minutes that it takes you is 5 minutes you get taken away from that thing. Oh, you know, he helps too then, because he doesn't want to lose time with his preferred thing. And if he can get to it quicker, there's something about the visuals sometimes for some of our kids that if they see, wow, I've only got 20 minutes in which to do this, and if I waste my time complaining or not getting down to it, I'm going to lose something else. So, but I appreciate you, because sometimes I'm a tiger mom too, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. And we are trying to teach our kids that, you know, I haven't watched Whiplash yet, but I kind of want to watch it with my son. I just don't know if the content of it is such. And, you know, that's the movie that J.K. Simmons is nominated for an Oscar for, where he plays the band conductor that is just brutal with his kids. And we know that there are abusive, horrible people that are like that call themselves coaches, that they're like, well, that's what needs to happen to get them to do it. Well, you know, I disagree with that, and I don't want to do that in my home, nor do I want to set up a circumstance where my son thinks that that's normal or right or okay. But we go there sometimes because our patience gets tried. But anyway, I'd love to get Dr. Granpeche's point of view on this as well, about how we get our kids to be interested in things that they're not, and how we have to. But I really have to say that I think choose your battles, and that some of it just is. We can't have them interested in everything. And unfortunately, you know, a lot of the stuff that they teach in high schools is boring. The fact that he loves math and robotics, and that you've got him in a school where he's got a robotic program, woohoo. I'm looking for that right now. Because there wasn't a robotics program when I was in high school. They had shop, right, which they don't have anymore, but there was no robotics program. So hang in there. I think you're doing a remarkable job, and wish you lived closer. We would go for lunch. In any case, we're going to take a break now, and we're going to take a look at the A Word. This is an ongoing documentary about a little boy, Jack Riley, who was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2. And we get to have a little window into his family to see how they're coping with this early intensive behavioral intervention, and how they're coping with being a growing family and the changes that inevitably come. It's not easy, and you constantly, with all of our kids, whether they're neurotypical or not, we have to adjust what we're doing as they grow and learn. It's hard. Take a look. This is the A Word.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast. Exciting. I say Jack, Jack, Jack is my buddy. Jack is my buddy. Everybody around is so down with Jack.
The silly bodies consist of him like running up, bumping up against people, objects, when he's tensing. So we implement the rule that he has a certain number of happy faces he has at the very beginning. He loses them every time he engages in that behavior. His motivation is to at least have one at the end of the session, and then he gets to have his preferred activity or treat that he only gets if he's able to maintain at least one happy face. This is a response cost, so he can't earn them back. He only loses them. So why is Suzanne laughing at you?
Because he said something.
Because I said something funny.
Because I said something
Jeff
funny.
Riley. Okay, that's one.
Because I said something funny. Because I said something funny.
There you go, but why did I take a happy face away? Because you were, look at me, because you were tensing, okay? So you're tensing.
I gotta get my smelly back. We need it.
We don't get it back. You can have a nice calm body and then you won't lose anymore. You're doing so good so far though, Jack. Look, you have 4 left. Today we're gonna go into the library, okay? And there's some rules that we have to follow in the library. So you have to stay with Dad or Miss Suzanne or Miss Jessica in the library, okay?
Or Mr. Brown.
Or Miss. And what kind of voice do you have to use in the library? Do you use a loud voice or a
And Jay.
whisper, okay? And there's books there, there's computers and toys in there, okay? Hey, look at me. If you want to touch or look at anything, you have to tell Dad, okay? If you do a good job and you have a nice calm body to do listening and you have at least one happy face, what do you get?
Your iPod.
That's right.
That is at home.
It's in my pocket. I have it right here. Okay? So go with Dad, hold his hand. Inside voice, okay?
What do you want to get a book about? About towers.
About what?
Towers.
Tales, fairy tales, castles.
Okay.
Let's have this book.
Nursery rhymes? We're gonna go find this book, okay?
Let's go.
Come on.
Nursery rhymes that is in the test.
See how they have letters? We're looking for the letter A.
Let's go find A.
Go find the letter A. Let's go find it.
Yeah, that's the number 4. We're looking for the number 5.
We found the letter A.
This is the.
You want to get that one?
Do you want to read that?
That one and bring it up. Let's go upstairs, please.
You're doing good asking, buddy.
Hi, I'm Ryan with Autism Research Group. We study ways to improve the lives of kids with autism. One of those ways is teaching safety skills, such as what to do if they get lost. We hit the streets to find out if anybody knows the correct answer on how to teach a kid what to do if they get lost.
You're teaching a child.
What to do if they get lost.
Yeah, you're trying to make them independent so they have the skills.
Gotcha. Okay.
Well, give them a compass.
Code name's good idea. Centurion.
We always have this whistle.
Oh, I'd also tell the kid, don't get scared. You're gonna be all right, man. This is just the world. This is planet Earth. You're at home here. As long as you're on planet Earth, you're at home.
As long as you're on planet Earth, you're home. This guy's a genius. With that flawless logic, he just solved our homeless problem. And as for the unique sounding whistle, although very cool, it'll probably only work if you're in close proximity. And a compass?
I have her call me.
Yeah, she don't have a phone. Parents are like, you're too young, you don't need a phone.
Establish some sort of like meeting place.
What if they can't find a meeting place? Because sometimes the kids get nervous when they get lost.
Yeah.
So like a backup plan,
Well,
plan B.
Yeah, I don't know. No, not really.
Let them go and find a new kid or something.
Yeah, I've got a different one. Yeah.
There's not much you can do.
There is stuff you can do.
That's right, there is stuff you can do. In 2012, myself, along with my colleagues, Dr. Jonathan Tarbox and Dr. Adele Nadowski, published a study in the Journal of Applied Behavior Analysis on teaching kids what to do when they get lost. The study demonstrated how 3 simple things, rules, role-playing, and praise, were effective in establishing these help-seeking behaviors. The benefit of this method is it doesn't require the child to have a cell phone or to have to locate a meeting place, which might be difficult if they're in a place like Disneyland. So once again, our method included rules, role-playing, and praise. Let's head back outside and learn about some of these rules.
They should yell out loud. Can't find my mom, help me.
Maybe yell out and scream for help. All right. Scream really loud. Correct. And if that doesn't work, then
I don't know.
Well, they could seek help from someone.
Find an adult.
Yeah, go to a vendor, and say I'm lost.
Find an adult, like a police officer or a fireman or an employee in the store. and tell them, and maybe they can help you contact your parent.
It really is that simple. You don't need to get your kid a cell phone. You don't need to establish a meeting place that they might not be able to find when they're lost and panicking. And you definitely don't need to give them a compass. All your kid has to do is 3 things. First, yell mom or dad real loud. 2, if that doesn't work, find an employee. And then 3rd, tell the employee they're lost. If they can't locate an employee, then tell them to find a mother with children, because that's probably the safest person to approach. I'm not saying that most men are predators, but most predators are men. That is a fact. I've read it in a fortune cookie. All right, so you've gone over the rules with your kid, and you've quizzed them, and they're able to tell you the correct responses so they understand the rules. But is that enough? How do you know they're gonna perform correctly in a real world setting? You need to get out there and find out if they can actually do it.
So you'd go over the rules and tell them like, do this, do that, but how would you know if they actually knew what to do? If you wanted to shoot a basketball, and I just told you, oh, when you shoot a basketball, do this, this, and this.
I never practiced.
You never practice, yeah, so it don't matter how many times we go over the rules or how well you can repeat them back to me. It's not going to change until you get on the court and practice.
Maybe do like a, a little skit with them.
Like a role play?
Role play, yeah.
Your child, you're lost in the toy aisle.
Okay.
What do you do? I'm an attendant, walking around.
I'm lost, I don't know where my mom is. And then once you practice, you just like praise them, give them feedback, like good job, you did it.
Reinforcing it.
Yes, this woman wins the prize for best comment. She pointed out the most important part of learning. Reinforcement. Now, in our study, we used praise, but for your kid, you might have to use something else. You might have to buy them a treat, a toy, take them to their favorite restaurant where they can eat unhealthy food and run around and climb through plastic tunnels that have the unmistakable scent of urine, and then play games, spending $20 to get a plastic little spider ring that they will eventually lose in a ball pit. The point is, you need to reward your child for correctly demonstrating what you've been teaching them.
Okay, I'm gonna call her. Hello, your child, Ryan Oceans is missing. There you go.
Woohoo!
Yay!
So you tested it out
I'll
in the
try.
store to make sure I knew it. I had the rules,
Yes.
we role played it, and you made sure I knew it, and then like you said good job and all that. Now we're good to go.
We're good to go.
All right.
Done?
High five right there.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Give your child the rules, get out there and practice, and reward your child for responding correctly. For more information, please visit us online at autismresearchgroup.org. I'm Ryan Bergstrom. Thanks for watching. Yes, ding, no. Yes, this woman wins the first. Yes, this woman. Yes, this woman wins the best. Yes, this woman wins the first place. Yes, this woman wins. Why can't I say woman? Yes, this woman wins. What's the line? Yes!
Welcome back to Autism Live. Wanted to readdress our haircut mom wrote in some more. Hi Shannon, thanks for taking my question. Good point on the reward. Each point equals 1 tech minute of games or surfing. He's been saving for the big reward. 300 points equals an airport trip. He loves seeing airplanes and taking photos. He's not there yet because he does like playing games. I like to work I'll have to work harder to find him some smaller rewards, and thank you for your positive energy. Your show always recharges me, even just hearing your voice, and thank you. It recharges me when I see a question from you. And then we had another question. Somebody said, do you think it's a good idea to remove rewards for not doing a task, maybe in conjunction with positive rewards? Okay, so I'm gonna get to all those things, but okay. I think I have a better, and let's remember that I'm not a BCBA, I'm just another mom, but we can talk to Dr. Gramsci about this tomorrow as well. In any case, so this is something that we do as parents a lot, that our kids give us data and sometimes we forget to look at it. Because it sounds like to me that the data that you're getting is that if you give him 1 point for tech time, that's just enough reward for him to do things like studying, and I believe that you said going to school. let me go back and see, getting to school on time and studying, 5 points for each 15 minutes. Okay, so that's just enough reward for him to be able to be willing to do that, but it's not enough of a reward to be interested in things that he's not interested in, and not enough of a reward to do his piano lesson without you having to turn into Tiger Mom. Okay, so, and that there's this thing on the table about, because you're a thinking mom, there's this thing on the table about if you were to get 300 points saved up, then we could go to the airport, so you could take pictures of planes and take pictures of photos. So what I feel like, and I've done this many times too, where I've said to my son, okay, I'm going to give you a point system, and then as part of that point system, I'm going to try to teach you how to bank points so that we can get a long-term goal in there, something that takes a while to do. And if you notice that it's not being accomplished, getting to that big goal, you got to do one of two things. You have to chop it up into smaller goals, because think about yourself. If I said to you, okay, well, we want you to be able to get the thing that you want more than anything else, but it's going to take you 4 years. And along the way, we're not going to give you any reinforcement. And by the way, during those 4 years that you can do that, you can cash in at any point and go back to square one to get an immediate gratification. There are some people who can do it, who can do that, but there are a lot of us, most of us, that cannot do that. So we'll keep cashing in and never get anywhere. And then we go, it's not working on both sides of the table, right? So tweak the equation a little bit. It's time to look at it in a different way. It's our theme. It goes right hand in hand. So you can do a bunch of different things here. You can either say, okay, well, we're working towards the 300 points to go to the airport, but, you know, when you get to 50 points, you get, like, you know, we're going to go to this and so place so that you can talk to this pilot or whatever. Get a smaller goal that's more attainable, because you're reeling him in, right? So that he goes, I really want to bank those points. Or you can say, it's too many points. We just can't get to that. You know, how far away is the airport? How big of a thing is it? Can you make it 100 points to go to the airport? And then you're still going to have to do something to feed the machine as it's working towards the 100 points. And be bringing up, you know, you can play your tech game today, or you can save these points for this, and you can split it 50-50. You know, this much time for your tech game and this much time banked for your thing. Or you could branch out and make those separate things. So you could say, right now, you're earning your tech points for, and when you go to school on time and when you study, you get those points and you have that, and just leave that because it's working, it sounds like. And then say, and I've got a new thing for you. You just don't want to get too complicated, but you can say, and if you will do your piano and sit down and do it, and you get it done in these 20 minutes, I'm going to give you 10 points into your bank for going to the airport. And I would tell you that, like, I don't know how big of a deal it is going to the airport and how many times you can go to the airport, but if the airport is an hour away, let's say, and you could go on a weekend and it fits your schedule, and you think that it's so reinforcing to him that going to the airport more than once, and you're willing to go to the airport more than once, then use it. Use it to get all the things that you want during the day. Make it so that he can get 100 points in a day. Or not in a day, in a week. Make it, you know, if it's 100 points to go to the airport, make it so that he could make that happen a week. Now, if it's something that's big and huge and you can't get to it every weekend, find something big and huge that you could get to every weekend if he earned the points. It'll be worth it for you. Because if he, you know, and you can't legislate interest, but what we know from science is that if you often enough put him in the circumstance where he's succeeding, where he is doing the thing that you want to do and getting a reward for it, it will sometimes flourish interest. So if all he has to do is sit there and be able to take the information in and regurgitate it, and you say, and I don't care whether you like it or not, I don't care whether you're interested or not, you have to be able to answer these questions at the end of it. And if you do, you get this huge reward. He will start to, if he's successful and he does it and he gets the reward, he will start to be more interested in doing it in the beginning because of the reward. But we've seen time and time again that sometimes you can take away eventually that reinforcer and the person actually likes it. There are some things nobody's going to like ever, right? But it's a way to work. Now, for the other person who said, what about removing rewards for not doing a task? Okay, that is something that's called a response cost. And it works. but it should be the last default that you go to. It works better and it will maintain skills longer if we're giving a reward and focusing on that. But there are times when it's not going to be enough, and then we put a response cost in there. We have to make very sure that we've already tried to do just the pure reward before we go to response cost. But yeah, you can do it, and you can do it in conjunction. Like I was saying, that I would say to him, you know, here's the timer. And if you finish this within 20 minutes, then you get a reward. You get to have, you know, all of this time to be able to do your thing and even some extra time to do it. If you don't do it, then for each 5 minutes over that, you're going to lose, first of all, you lose the extra time, and then you start losing 5-minute increments of the thing that you want to do. Be prepared if you do something like that, the first time you do it, they're going to throw a hissy of all America, because they're not used to it working that way, and they want to know that there's an out. You got to know beforehand what you're willing to do and what you aren't willing to do. There are times when I give my son an opportunity to earn something back that he's lost. There are other times when I don't, because I don't want him to learn I can mess it up, and if I freak out, and just cry long enough, you'll give me an opportunity to learn it back. Very dicey. I suggest that you work with a BCBA to define those parameters, because left to our own device, we tend to be a little softer on our kids than maybe we should, which isn't the worst thing as moms and dads, right? But response costs, it's very effective if used properly, but I think the asterisk there is if used properly, and consult with somebody professionally who knows your child, knows you, to set up the parameters for you before you try to put that out there. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, Devin Rios Barrieno is going to be with us talking about IEP 101. What are our rights? What are the rules? Can we work the rules in our favor if we know what they are? Thinking of it in a different way. When we come back, stick with us.
Riley has high-functioning autism, and I'd say I noticed somewhere between 9 months and a year. Looking back now, I can tell you everything. I mean, there was no pointing, there was no shared experiences, speech was not coming, the interactive play was not coming, those things weren't happening. You know, you go to the pediatrician, they tell you, well, sometimes boys are slow or things might take a while to come along, but it still wasn't happening. And right when he hit the 2-year-old room in preschool is when the wheels fell off the wagon. That's when we got some intervention. That's when we figured out, you know, how are we going to address this problem. The first thing I did was I got a mentor, because there's no book on what to do with your autistic child. I mean, there's many books, but each path is individual. So I got a mentor, a really nice woman named Marlene. She has a daughter with Asperger's, and she told me, go to a psychiatrist so you can have your child fully diagnosed and a rock-solid diagnosis that can't really be attacked. Call CARD and do whatever they tell you to do. That was probably the thing she talked about the most. Get in touch with CARD. She actually put me in touch with Evelyn from CARD, and calling CARD was like amazing, because I really felt like things were finally going to be okay. We were going to get the help we needed.
We tried a number of different things before we could get into CARD, and you could really see the difference in the data keeping, really addressing what his issues were, whereas the other places we had been, it seemed pointless to me.
We've talked about this, and I feel like we met a lot of really nice, well-intentioned people.
Right.
And then when we got to CARD, we met a lot of really nice people who could help us because they had the experience. It was ABA, which I think is the only way to go with your child if you're trying to overcome autism. And if you go to CARD, the people are so qualified, and there's so much of a database on how to approach this. It's just like they come right in, and we started off with, let's have Riley sit down for 2 seconds, because he couldn't even get that. And we worked on baby steps until now he's in 1st grade and he's working at grade level. So it just starts with baby steps, and it keeps working on, because they have a way to approach every single problem, every single tantrum, every single thing you're going to come up with. They have a way to approach it and help you get through it.
Yeah, I'm always amazed, like at our clinic, we'll be having a specific problem, and how good they are, all of them, the therapist and your team leader, at coming up with a solution, something to try. and it almost always works. Whatever the particular behavior you're trying to deal with, they're really good at them. They know the answers.
He likes a lot of stuff, I think, regular 7-year-olds like. He likes to swim.
He loves to swim.
He's a fish. Likes to ride a scooter, loves Toy Story, loves playing on the iPad.
Loves
Justin Bieber.
Thought you all be mine.
Good job, buddy.
High five.
High five.
High five.
Yeah.
CARD's been good about encouraging us to do things that maybe wouldn't occur to us, like him learning to ride a bike was really them saying, hey, it's time, let's do this, and helping us do that. And so he can ride a bike. He's still working on the brakes a little bit, but you know, he can pedal a bike. We can go to Balboa Park and he'll ride happy as a clam along the bike path.
If you think something's wrong, it's not about you. Don't bury your head in the sand. Go get help, because the help is out there to make your life and your child's life just so much better. And if you're lucky enough to get in with CARD, I can't even tell you what a difference it's made in our lives. From 4 years ago, just the quality of life we have, the quality of life Riley has, the progress he's made from being a child who wanted to stay in his room and play Toy Story and line up his Toy Story dolls all day, to a first grader who's working at grade level. It couldn't have happened without CARD intervention, without ABA, and without all the wonderful people we met there.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Joining us via Skype right now, we have the wonderful Devin Rios Barriano, and she is a wonderful special education attorney that was with us just a couple of weeks ago. She's here with us today to talk about some tips. I'm calling it IEP 101, some things that we can know as parents that help to empower us in this process that we're all about to face in the coming months. But before we get started with that, Devin, we know that you've got an event that's coming up tomorrow night, I believe.
I do. I'm actually hosting an event in collaboration with Autism Society of Greater Long Beach, San Gabriel, Orange County, to talk about negotiating with the school district. So I'm going to give common examples of disagreements, your options for resolving those disagreements, things to be mindful of if you attempt to negotiate on your own without representation, including discussing waiver clauses, structures of settlement agreements, and all those ins and outs that come up as a result of attempting to negotiate with the district to resolve disputes.
What a wonderful, wonderful topic, because I want to encourage anybody who can get to this event, if you're not having a difficulty and needing to negotiate something with a school district right now, then that's wonderful, but you will at some point. and being prepared and knowing about things ahead of time is just so valuable. So Devin, where is this happening? What time? How can people find out more about it to see if they can attend?
Absolutely. It's at the Autism Society in Whittier. The address is 8635 Greenleaf Avenue in Whittier. It's going to be at 7:30 tomorrow night. We're not providing childcare, but there's no RSVP needed, and we'll have light refreshments. The best way is probably to look at my website. We'll be posting the event shortly. You can also Google Autism Society. There's lots of links to the flyer on Facebook, or you can reach out to my office through my website.
And what is your website, Devin?
It's www.riosbarrianolaw.com.
Okay, you're going to need to spell Barriano for us. And we've got it up on the screen, but for people who are listening on iTunes.
Absolutely. So Barriano, BARELLANO.
Okay, and I was putting an S at the end, but there is no S at the end, so Barriano. Okay,
right,
wonderful. And great event. Again, no cost, but there is no childcare, so people will have to arrange for childcare on their own for that.
Right.
Okay. But worthwhile to arrange the childcare for that. But Devin, you're a wonderful special education attorney, and we are moving into IEP season. And one of the things that we started talking about 2 weeks ago is that I think a lot of parents, we get handed our rights at the meeting. We think we know what our rights are, but there are a lot of things that we can do to set ourselves up for success. So why don't you talk to us about some of the things that you see parents doing that really make a difference to you as a lawyer?
Absolutely. So when you're at the point of a disagreement, chances are there are several things that have happened along the way before you feel the need to talk to an attorney. And so what I look for that makes it really helpful for me to quickly evaluate a case and determine what your options are and if you need legal representation, first thing I look at is the organization of the file. Do you have all your records available? Are they organized and accessible? And can I look at things quickly to help you evaluate? I can't stress it enough. I've seen clients come in the door with boxes of records or very disheveled and disorganized, and it makes it virtually impossible to evaluate their case. And that's not to say that there isn't a case, only that without the documents in order and accessible, it's almost impossible to evaluate your claims. Because at the end of the day, in special education, if it's not written down, it didn't happen. So while your comments and evaluations of the situation are important, we're going to be relying heavily on those documents. So I can't stress enough organization and having all of your records.
Okay, let's get specific here. So when your dream client comes in and they have the dream organization, what does that look like?
So there are lots of resources on records organization. My preferred method is in chronological order, like a story. So the first document would be when they were age 3, and then the last document would be what happened presently. So you're going in chronological order, similar to a storybook. What I would love ideally is to flip through your file and know exactly what happened first, second, third, and so forth, like a story. So if I can understand your child's story based on looking at their records, that gives me an accurate picture as to how I can assist you. Okay. And the documents you want to include are IEPs, assessments, letters, any correspondence you've had, receipts for reimbursement potentially for any services you funded privately. Those are all really important documents. And if you don't have those readily available on your own, you can start by making a records request to your school district to obtain records. We could talk a little bit more about that if you want.
Yeah, I'm just thinking I am not your dream client. I'm learning a lot here because, there was a period of time, I'll be very honest, we have something here in Los Angeles that they have clinics where they will give you a binder. And it's already been segmented into different things, and they will teach you how to put things in a binder. And when my son was 3, I went to one of those workshops, I got my binder, and my binder is beautiful for when he was 3. He is now 11. And I was talking to a parent yesterday about something, and I said, do you have a copy of your IEP handy? And I said, and let me just say this to you, if somebody asked me for my IEP right now, I would burst into tears. So if you don't have it, I'm not going to judge you. And she was like, no, I have it right here. And it was amazing how much more we got done. And I was like, you're amazing because you know right where your IEP is. But I do think if I was in a habit for a while, probably from 3 to 5, when we were at the most contentious with the school district, where I just filed everything, and I've gotten out of the habit.
Yep.
So you encourage people to do that. So I'm sorry, you go ahead.
Sorry.
You go right ahead.
So this is not to say that if you aren't organized that you can't get there and work towards it.
Right.
To be perfectly honest with you, I'm giving you the gold standard.
Right.
So don't let it preclude you from seeking legal counsel if you need it or are doing what you have to do if your documents are not in perfect order. At minimum, you need to walk in the door with your last IEP and set of assessments. So I think the bigger picture here is having your documents and having a sense of organization is really helpful, particularly when you're in a dispute.
Yes. And you don't know when you're going to be in a dispute which piece of paper you need. And I will say this, that because when I was organized, when we were in disputes, we were able to work things out in our favor because I kept everything and I knew where it was. I just have gotten very messy about that. But I love what you said. That doesn't mean that we give up, and that doesn't mean that I need to give up. I need to make sure that I get back in the habit of doing that. The fact of the matter is that you need to have some place to put the paper, and if you know where it goes, if there is a binder, it's just that much easier to put it in the binder than to, it takes the same amount of energy as it does to set it on the dining room table.
Exactly.
Where it's going to get lost and mixed it up in the shuffle. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about documenting, though, conversations and things of that sort. We have heard before, and it's always the question that we all ask as parents, if you have written an email to someone, does that count as something? Should we be keeping emails someplace? Should we print them out and keep them someplace? Does it count as doing something in writing when you send an email?
So that is an interesting area of discussion. And I think different professionals will probably have different opinions on that. So absent being able to follow up with a formal letter with a date stamp in a format that is not editable, meaning a PDF or a hard copy, that's preferred. Emails, while they'll do the job, can be edited and changed through a chain of conversations. So if you have to get something out quickly and you want to just document and follow up, it should be okay. But again, gold standard would be written out in a format that cannot be changed once submitted, if that makes sense.
Okay, so if we want to make a request, say for instance, I want to request for an emergency IEP and I send an email, is it better if I send my request as a PDF within the email?
I think that's ideal. So sending it via email would help you prove that you submitted it.
Okay.
And then if you can prove that the other party has received it, perfect. And ideally it would be an email attachment as a PDF that cannot be edited, that would show your clear request and the date and have a signature.
Okay, that's powerful information that I've never thought about before. I know in the past when I have sent a letter and asked for somebody to sign so that I could prove that it was there, the school they were like, oh my gosh, like something happened as a result of me sending a letter that had to be signed that they received it. You could tell that they were like, oh, we got a problem now. And that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to signal. But I could see sending a PDF as an attachment and nobody flipping out about it.
Right, and you want to maintain good relationships to the extent you can by conducting yourself reasonably and as non-adversarial as possible when doing this. So if you think about it from the receiving end, requiring a proof of receipt might feel a little more official, but frankly, at the end of the day, if you can't prove that you've submitted it, it's going to be very difficult to prove your case, particularly if you're trying to trigger timelines and notice, things like that. So you do have to have some form of proof that it was received and submitted. Okay. That can be done via email, via fax, or even as quick as a date stamp and a copy from the administrative staff that you might give it to directly at the school. And at the end of the day, you can't really worry about the perception of it because you have to advocate for your child's rights and show that you're preserving this.
Absolutely. But if there are other ways, like I like the idea that you just mentioned of faxing, and I also like the idea of just getting in the habit that anytime you bring something into the school, have them date stamp it. But all of these things I think are important. It makes the difference at the end of the day. So,
right. And you're teaching them how to treat you. So if you get into this habit where they just know, Miss Jones, when she submits something, she's going to want a date stamp. It may be weird the first time, the second time, but you get into that habit.
Right. Right, absolutely. I think these are all great ideas. We're going to take a short break, and then we're going to come back with some more tips and things that we need to know about this IEP process that make a difference for us. Should we get in? It makes a difference as we're going through it, and it definitely makes a difference should we get into any kind of a sticky wicket further down the road. And it happens. It happens a lot, more than you'd think. All right, so stick with us. We're going to be right back after these messages.
What
What is autism?
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 I've been asking myself that for a very, very long time.
Let me think about that one.
Trying to, just,
Jeez. Let me think. Oh man, that's a rough one. Yes.
Autism,
Autism is a neurological disorder that affects many of our kids in different ways.
It's a learning disability that affects the cognitive functions of the brain.
A lot of people have the misconception that it's a disability, and it's really not.
I look at it as like a special gift.
When one person thinks differently from another.
It's an opportunity for everyone to learn to understand someone that's a little different than them. Autism is the ability to educate.
They're given so much talent in different areas.
To me, autism means a chance to be with and be around people you really care about. Autism is beautiful.
It's a way of seeing the world differently.
It's always unique, totally intelligent, and sometimes mysterious.
Happiness that comes out of my son's hard work.
It's a movement.
Unpredictable.
That's right.
Awesome. Love.
The field I want to work in.
Laughter, fun, joy. Autism is beautiful to me.
I want you to remember these 3 words. There is hope.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We're so lucky because we have with us via Skype Devin Rios Barriano. She is a special education attorney, and she's got a really important event that's coming up tomorrow. Devin, tell us where the event is taking place.
It's at the Autism Society located in Whittier. Address is 8635 Greenleaf Avenue in Whittier. It's at 7:30, and we're covering the topic of what parents need to know about negotiating when there's a dispute.
And we have talked about the fact that there, in most individual, if you've got somebody that has any kind of a special need and they're going to school, at some point you're going to have a dispute about something. It may not be huge, but there are going to be things that you disagree about. So an important topic. Again, this event is free, but there is no child care. So make sure that you make plans for your children to be in good care so that you can go and take lots of good notes. And we hope that you will go. It is not required to RSVP, but we hope that you will, if you can, get to this event in Whittier tomorrow with Devin. But Devin is here with us talking about what I call IEP 101, things that we need to know that will help us. We've already talked about making sure that you document and keep your documents together in a way that's nice and neat so that you can access them, and that if you need help and support and are seeking legal help, that they can access them. But Devin, there are also some other things that we have the right to do that parents don't always know and don't take advantage of, even if they do know. Talk to us a little bit about whether we should tape record or not.
Absolutely. So yes, you have a right to tape record your IEP meeting. You need to give 24 hours written notice to the district that you will tape record. What I advise clients to do often is when you get the IEP notice, just write in there as a routine, you sign and write in there, please use this as notice that I will be tape recording.
Yes.
So if you submit your notice and it's all on one document, that is a really helpful way to just get in the habit of giving them notice that you're going to tape.
Right.
Taping is very important because oftentimes it will be the only way that you can prove a statement was made. Notes can sometimes get lost in translation, and you want that backup to assure that what is said is actually preserved in the record.
And I just can't say it enough. We talk about it all the time on the show. And I was saying to Devin during the break that, it gets into IEP season, and invariably at least 5 parents will contact me and they'll say, you won't believe what got said at my IEP. You just won't believe the person said this. And then I always say, oh my goodness, were you tape recording? And invariably they'll say, no, I decided not to do that. And my thing, it's double-sided for me that there are 2 reasons that I think that everybody should be recording, is that if you are recording, it ensures that everyone will behave in a way that is businesslike, or if they don't, then things are going to be won and lost on that. That there are things that get said in an IEP that if a tape recorder was running, they would not get said. And I want to be in an environment where people are not saying inappropriate things, personally, as a parent.
Agreed. And definitely when someone says you won't believe what was said in this meeting, well, I won't believe you unless it's on tape, because that's how we're going to prove it.
Exactly.
So it is very important that you tape. And frankly, you can tape off of it doesn't have to be expensive equipment. There's lots of apps that you can use on a smartphone. There's lots of ways to preserve the record that don't have to be costly or expensive or time consuming. So it really is in your best interest to tape record the meeting.
Absolutely. And you can do the old-fashioned tape, or now we have a digital recorder that we invested in at like our second IEP, and they've gotten cheaper now. And it will, once you're done, you can go home and plug it into your computer, and it'll download it, and you have it on your computer saved forever. And honestly, that taping has helped us to be able to get the services that my son needed. I think it's like the best thing that we ever did. But I mentioned that it ensures that everybody behaves in a professional way, and I do generally say to parents, but make sure, they're gonna have to behave in a professional way, but it also puts constraints on us as parents that we have to behave in a certain way, and sometimes that's hard. So Devin, talk to us a little bit about how we wanna purport ourselves at an IEP meeting.
Thanks for asking that question. I can't stress enough the importance that you conduct yourself as a parent in a reasonable and professional fashion. What I often say is pretend like your child is in the room and they are looking at how you are behaving, how you're conducting yourself, and what you're saying, both about them and for them, as the frame of reference for how you conduct yourself. And it's difficult when you're emotional and you feel disempowered, but you need to know your limitations and take breaks accordingly. And sometimes if you feel like you're not going to say something nice, the old rule still applies, don't say anything at all. But I really I can't stress enough that sometimes it's more important that you behave reasonably than anything. If you are looked at as a problematic parent or someone that is difficult for reasons that are not related to the issue, but your behavior, it can complicate things to the point where you will start being counterproductive.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know I've heard stories, and maybe you can corroborate that parents who, if you end up having to go into any kind of a court situation, whether it's somebody who's a mediator or a judge, they will not tolerate, if it's on a tape recorder or if you're doing it live, any kind of inappropriate language, any kind of outburst, it will not be tolerated, and you could literally lose your case, not have your case be heard because you're not behaving in a way that is appropriate for the setting. We're always teaching our children about you have to behave this way for the setting, and it requires a certain amount of control, self-control.
And it's hard.
It is hard.
That's so very challenging, oftentimes, because again, you're more emotionally invested than anyone at that table.
Yeah.
Which is why sometimes it is good advice to take an advocate with you. If you need a break, request it. If it helps you to submit an agenda or put things in writing to keep everyone on track so you can fall back on that, that's very helpful. But you have to, again, look at this like your child's in the room, they're watching how you're conducting yourself, and what's getting written in the record it's hard to come back from.
It is.
And you also want to keep good relationships with your team to the extent you can. So it starts with your behavior.
It absolutely does. We recently had a parent who wrote in, a dad, who went to an IEP and wrote and was very disturbed because he got so upset at one point in the IEP and he asked for a break and he was refused. They said, no, you cannot take a break. We're going to continue the IEP without you. And I said, did you have a tape recorder running that had you asking for the break and them refusing you? And of course he did not. And I said, did you have somebody with you that, could help you to calm down or could carry on when you weren't there? And he did not. And I felt so bad for him because what he was asking for was reasonable, asking for a break, but because he didn't have those other two things in place, he did not take the break. He got mad. He started yelling. Everything broke down. He did not get what he wanted for his child. And I felt like if he had had those two things in place, what happened would not have happened.
It's hard. And so what you want to do is put all these things in place, being organized, having a working understanding of your rights, tape recording, having a clear set of requests for the team, and knowing your emotional limitations. All of these things set the environment up so you're doing everything you can to protect yourself from being in that position, which is heartbreaking. It's terrible to hear those kind of things.
Absolutely. And I always say, I want to behave in the way that I want everybody else at the table to behave, not only with me, but with my child as well. And, there have been times when I have been in an IEP where I have been so mad that all I could see was red. And I, sipped a little of the water that I drank and offered people a cookie because I brought cookies to the IEP. And I knew that my husband was sitting there and that we had a signal that if I was going to blow my stack, that he was going to say, time, and take over. So, I understand it's emotional, it's hard, and sometimes people will say things that you just really want to lose it, but you cannot. There's no more important place where you want to keep it together than in those meetings. Devin, we think that you're an amazing resource, and we want to again let you say what your website is, so that people can find out more information about this event tomorrow, but also about if they're interested in getting representation here in Southern California. So tell us your website again.
Sure, it's riosbarriano.com. So Rios, R-I-O-S, Barriano, B-A-R-E-L-L-A-N-O, law.com.
Okay, wonderful. And so tomorrow, I imagine that you said that you were going to be talking about lots of different things that might happen. Will there also be a question and answer period?
Absolutely. I can't answer specific case-related questions on the spot, but general questions we'll certainly have time for.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I hope that lots of people get to your event. It's certainly a wonderful opportunity to learn. If you're already in a contentious situation with your school, great thing to go to. But I have to say, for anybody to go and get this information, because maybe you can head it off at the pass with some of this information. Devin, thank you so much for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, take care.
You too.
Bye-bye. Wonderful. So again, that event is tomorrow at Autism Society of America in Whittier. There is no cost, but there is no childcare. Make sure that you've provided for your children and that they are under the safe care of someone that you know will take good care of them. We're going to take a break and be back after these messages.
Monica Holloway is a critically acclaimed author, speaker, and activist. She is also an autism mom. Her son Wills was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3. Now, at the age of 15, Wills is a high school freshman, attending a mainstream school.
I'm in a brand new school. I'm in a great school that I love, and I'm really happy there. I made friends pretty quickly on the first day, and something interesting happened to me on the first day.
Tell me.
We were doing an art project with fabric markers, and there was a little label on it that said, "Squeeze for best results."
Okay.
And so I squeezed it and exploded all over the people at my table.
Oh no!
And we were all covered in little blue dots.
I asked Wills how he describes autism to people.
I say that I have Asperger's syndrome, which is a slight form of autism. It doesn't make you any different. It really doesn't. It's just there, and it just kind of makes you who you are.
I asked Wills what he thought of the Sandy Hook shooter's actions being linked to autism.
Please, just don't be scared of autism. If somebody has autism, don't be scared of them. Chances are they're not violent. They're just like you or me.
Monica is a proud mom with good cause. I asked her to describe Wills in 5 words.
Generous, curious, funny, sensitive, loving.
We had a chance to talk about the Sandy Hook massacre and how Monica heard the news.
On Friday, when the shooting happened in Connecticut, I was in my car, and my husband Michael called to tell me what had happened. And I was in a state of shock, as I think we all were, but that many children. And I felt, I guess a mind can't take in that kind of information without feeling nauseous. I felt it go from here all the way down my body. I started calling everybody I knew to tell them I loved them, and I was thinking about them, and I just wanted to be with the people that I knew. I started hearing more and more information come on the news about this shooter having Asperger's or being autistic. And then I started hearing things about, well, does autism cause violence? And I was in a whole other level of shock. Never in a million years would I think that somebody might associate us and my son's face with the face of violence just because he has Asperger's. And I've seen bad days and good days, and that's what kills me, is like there was not a day bad enough to ever make me think that he or any of his friends could ever be violent. The only thing that made me even feel a little bit better, to do something to help educate. And so we've started a campaign on my Facebook page, Cowboy and Wills. It's called I Am the Face of Autism. And please post a picture of yourself. It can be your child, your friend with autism. Let's put these beautiful faces of these people with autism on to wipe out the face of this murderer. Let's put our faces in front of his.
Welcome back. I'm trying to figure out, I'm contemplative here, because from cold Wisconsin, which are you guys having all the snow there that they're having back east? They have written in saying, I'm trying to think of the book that you had on about characters. One character had autism and the second character just got out of jail. Do you remember? I'm remembering the book where the main character, the little boy, his dad is in jail. He hasn't just gotten out of jail, he's in jail. Is that the one that you're talking about, and the boy is little? Write me back and let me know. And you're going on to say, I'm putting together a list of books about a character who has a disability to go to a school board meeting to talk about disability ambassadors. And you also had sent a message on Thursday, and I meant to get back to you because you referenced an email that I did not get. So I think there was something you were waiting from me, and I don't know what it was you were waiting for me. So if you'll write me and tell me, I felt bad about it all weekend long. So if you'll write me back and tell me whatever that email transmission was, nobody got it. My email is s.penrod@autism-live.com. Email me directly there and tell me what you need, and I'll be happy to get it done. I also wonder, there's no character that's just got out of jail, but there's the character in The Case of the Dog in the Night, that maybe, because that's the other book that we referenced recently. So write me back and tell me if that is indeed what it is that you are talking about. I want to take a second here to talk briefly about some of what's going on the rest of the show this week. Dr. Doreen Granpeche is going to be here tomorrow, and she's going to be answering your questions in real time, something that I look forward to every week, to hear her thoughts on some of the things that we're struggling with on a day-to-day basis. You can be writing in on the live feature right now. There are questions already in the queue, as they say, for tomorrow, but we can take some more. Then tomorrow, in our second hour, we have Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Nancy Allspot Jackson will be joining me. Lots to talk about. As you know, last week, Nancy was on kind of pins and needles because her son was starting at a new school, so Nancy's going to fill us in on how that is going. We also have a really wonderful guest who's going to be with us, Craig Cohen, who is the Asperger coach. He has a blog called the Asperger Coach Blog. He's going to be talking with us about some of the things that he writes about and some of the things that he's working on, and in particular, a sensory chair that has been worked on by a group of individuals who are on the autism spectrum, have Asperger's, and they're designing a chair that is meant to combat some sensory issues. I don't know much more about it than that, but I know that I'm very interested to hear what it is they're working on and how Craig interacts with his clients to help them to be productive at the things that they want to be productive at. I can't help but think about, there's a very amazing film that's out right now that's being nominated for a lot of awards called The Imitation Game. It's one of those really amazing films, spectacular cast, Keira Knightley and Benedict Cumberbatch, who you know, when they do the ads, it looks like it's a movie about one thing, and you get there and you discover that it's about a lot more than you thought it was about. And I will tell you, I'm not going to give anything away, but autism is throughout that movie. And knowing that you're working with the right people who will work with you in the right way, we can capitalize on some of the gifts that autism gives us. I think you will be pleasantly surprised at how autism plays a part in that movie. And they never say the word autism, but it is truly amazing. So in any case, we'll talk with Craig about how he's helping set up circumstances for his clients that help them to be able to use what they've got in the most positive way and get around those obstacles. It's that thing that we've been talking about all week long, about getting to look at things in a different way, trying something new so that we can get to the progress, which is what we're always talking about, right? Then on Thursday, our very special guests that are going to be joining us, Dr. Adele Nadowski, will be here, and she's going to be talking about when we're teaching, whenever we have something that we want to teach anyone, this is on the spectrum or off the spectrum, but of course with a particular focus for on the spectrum, and it's not working. So if we've set a goal, it's a perfect time of year, in fact, to be talking about, you know, maybe you had a New Year's resolution that you were going to exercise or you were going to eat healthy. And now we're several weeks into this new year and maybe you're not seeing the progress that you want to see. What can we change? Do we just throw away the whole thing and say, well, that's not working? Or do we tweak something to see if we can't get to the result that we want to get to? We see this a lot. If I had a nickel for every time I talked to a parent who at some point had tried ABA but said, we just weren't seeing the result that we wanted to. It's a very frustrating thing for me because I know that if we tweak a couple of things, we absolutely can get to the progress. There's progress available for every single person who's on the autism spectrum. So knowing what to change, though, is half the battle. And if you're trying to teach your child how to set the table, and you've been working on it in the same way for 3 weeks, and it just isn't happening, it's not gelling, they're not doing it, and you think, maybe it's just never going to happen, Dr. Nadowski will help us. What are some things that we can tweak to get to the point where they are doing it? I think that's a really important discussion to have. And then Dr. Jonathan Tarbox will be joining us, and he will be answering your questions, which, as I said, already are flooding in. I want to take just here at the end here, we've got just a couple of minutes. And again, I'm going to bring this up with Dr. Grampichet tomorrow, but just want to prime the pump here a little bit that somebody wrote it in, and this goes right hand in hand with what we've been talking about. Hi, Shannon and Dr. Doreen. Started a point system, but I must be doing something wrong. When I give verbal positive reinforcement, my son will ask, can he get points? We have predetermined which tasks / number of points. Thanks for your wisdom. And again, we'll have Dr. Grampichet talk about this, but it's one of those things where if just one small element is off, it can throw the whole thing off, really gum up the works. But I'm confident that she's going to be able to give us just some little things to tweak. But again, as we said earlier in the show, what I get from that is the points are working. What the communication that's happening there is that this individual is saying, I am willing to do this for the points. I'm not willing to do it for the praise. I'm willing to do it for the points. And if you think about it, that's kind of real life. I love it when people praise me for my job. That's a wonderful thing, and I appreciate it. But the truth of the matter is that all I got from it, and I didn't get a paycheck, I probably wouldn't keep doing this job forever, right? And I think that most of us are that way. We'd love to be in circumstances in our life where that could be enough of a reinforcement, but it isn't a lot of times. You need a bigger paycheck, and the paycheck can be money. Paycheck can be praise, but for a lot of us, we'll need something in addition to the praise. I think you'll find that over time, there are some tasks that if we start it with a big reward and some praise, that over time we can start to fade the reward and still have praise that maintains it. But there are going to be some tasks that continue to be hard that we're going to need something in addition to the praise. That's not something to feel bad about. If you know what the equation is, then you know how to get get it done, and you can make judgments about, am I willing to give a reward for this behavior or not? That, my friends, is being in a place of power, of knowing, okay, I can make decisions about, I'm not willing to pay my child to make his bed, or I am willing to pay a nickel every time my child makes his bed, but I'm not willing to pay for whatever it is. Then you can make those decisions, and it's going to be different for all of us, no two alike. But I love that you've started the point system, and I love that you're at that place where you're evaluating and saying, here's what's working, here's what isn't. These are the true executive function skills that we talk about all the time here on the show, that we want to teach ourselves and we want to teach our kids, because there's an element of this that is working quite well. We've also got a question about tomorrow that we're going to address with Dr. Grandpichet about echolalia. So those of you who are interested in knowing what are you going to cover tomorrow, those are some of the things just to start out with. And we've got a question that came in from a teacher, but I'm not knowing exactly what the exact question is. So if you want to write in more before we get to Dr. Grandpichet tomorrow, about having a couple of different kids that are 4-year-olds and how different they are, but not really knowing what your question is about, what to address there. So if you have an opportunity to do that, we encourage you between now and tomorrow too to be writing in questions on our Facebook and on our Twitter. I have promised that I will try to figure out what the name of that machine is that helps with the visual motor. And thank you for writing back in from Wisconsin. You say, yes, the first book, and don't worry, this is from okay, I want to see what this video is, so send me the video that you're referencing here. You want to know if I've seen the video. I want to see what it is. So send it to me at s.penrod@autism-live.com. And okay, it was the first book that you wanted, and I will find out what the name of that book is for you. It's something to do with water. So we'll find that out. And I will tell you first thing tomorrow at the start of Ask Dr. Doreen what the name of that book is. All right, we're about out of time. So I want to stop and thank our guests. As I mentioned at the start of the show, we weren't able to have Kelly Hunter, but we're rescheduling with her. So you didn't miss it. We will be talking about the Hunter Heartbeat method of teaching Shakespeare with autism. We'll schedule that appointment and I'll let you know when that is going to be. And we want to thank Devin Rios Barrieno for being with us and talking us through IEP 101. I hope you had an opportunity to find some places to look for grants from that segment that we did on that. Check us out on iTunes, on Roku, and our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And Kelby is telling me we're almost out of time. So don't forget, tomorrow, Ask Dr. Doreen, and we'll also be answering questions during Dr. Tarbox on Thursday. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.